Hello students, a very warm welcome to the video class of business regulation. Last class we discussed the concept undue influence. It is a second case where the contract is formed without consent. Now in this class we can discuss the third case, that is fraud. Fraud is generally means cheating. When a contract is formed out of fraud, the contract is not valid because in this contract the consent is not free. So let us discuss the concept fraud in detail. So first we can discuss what is fraud. Fraud means intentional or willful misrepresentation of fact. I repeat, fraud means intentional or willful misrepresentation of fact. When a wrong representation is made by a party with the intention to deceive the other party or to cause him to enter into a contract, it is said to be fraud. So, the term fraud includes all acts committed by a person with a view to deceive another person. The term deceive means to induce a person to believe that a thing is true which is false. Now let us try to find out what is fraud as per Indian Contract Act. Section 17 of the Indian Contract says that fraud includes any of the following acts. They are a suggestion as to fact of that which is not true by one who does not believe it to be true. Repeat, a suggestion as to fact of that which is not true by one who does not believe it to be true. It means any suggestion given by one person to the other and he know it is not true. So this statement actually means suggestion of a fact by a person who believes it is to be false. This is a type of fraud because you can't make a suggestion that you know it is not true. For example, I tell you that I will sell you my car. Now I know for a fact that the car is made in India. But I says that the car was made in Germany. Now I know for a fact that the car is made in India, and yet I am making a statement that the car is made in Germany. Even after knowing the fact and it is false, I still make that suggestion. Now, suggestion here does not actually means a suggestion. It actually means statement of a fact of which you believe it to be false. You believe that the statement is false, yet you make suggestion. This is the first act. Now, what is the second act? It is the active concealment of fact by one having knowledge or belief of that fact. Now, what is active concealment? Concealment means hiding. So, you hide the fact or you actively hide the fact. You know that there exists of some fact, yet you hide that fact. Let us try to take an example of a business transaction. Let's say I am selling a bag to you and I know the fact that the bag is defective. Yet I am hiding that fact and trying to sell the bag to you. This would include fraud because I am actively concealing a fact. I know that there is a hole in the bag, yet I am trying to sell it to you. So I am hiding or concealing the fact. So this would also lead to a transaction of business contract which is induced by fraud. Now the next is a promise made without any intention of performing it. I make a promise to you and I do not perform it. That becomes fraud. I tell you, give me a lakh of rupee and I will double it and give it to you after 1 year. So this is the example. So after 1 year, I give you 2 lakh rupee. I take 1 lakh rupee from you and run away. What I am doing here, I promise something with an intention of not performing it. My intention was to get money from you and run away. So I simply made a promise just to induce a contract from you. I did not intend to perform my promise. I intended to cheat you. So we can say that this contract is induced by fraud. Now next one is any other act fitted to deceive. It is at the discretion of the court. It can make any act as fraud if it think fit. That means if the court think that this act will cheat some other party, then it is called fraud. So we can say that any other act apart from the above is called fraud if the court think that that act is fraud. Now take the last case. Any such act or omission as the law specially declared to be fraudulent. The court may declare any act or omission is fraudulent. So it is again at the discretion of the court. So the last two cases at the discretion of the court. If the court decided that such an act is fraud, then it becomes fraud. So these are the acts which form fraud. Now we can discuss the essentials of fraud or important elements of fraud. The first essential is the fraudulent act must have been committed by a party to the contract, which means the act of constituting fraud must have been committed by a party to the contract or with his convenience or by his agent. It should not have been committed by a stranger. So this is the first case. Now the next one is there must be a representation or suggestion or assertion of a fact which must be false. In order to constitute fraud, there must be some representation or suggestion or assertion of a fact which is false and the party making it know that it is false. Now the third one is there must be active or willful concealment of a fact. There must be an active concealment of fact, which means when the party takes some positive step to prevent an information from reaching the other party, it is called active concealment and it leads to fraud. Now the next case is promise made without intention of performing it. If the promiser made a promise without intention to perform it, it will lead to fraud. It is the primary duty of the promiser to perform the contract as stipulated in it. If a promise is made only to cheat other party, there exists fraud. Now the next case is an act or representation etc. must be done or made with an intention to deceive the other party. To constitute fraud, there must be an act fitted to deceive the other party, or there must be some representation, statement, suggestion or assertion which must be made with an intention to deceive the other party. And now the next case is if an act or omission has specially been declared by law to be fraudulent, it amounts to fraud. Certain act and omission have been specifically declared to be fraudulent by various acts. So doing such act or omitting such act will lead to fraud. And now the next one is the representation etc. must relate to a fact. A mere expression of opinion, imagination, guesswork, hearsays or of intention or some puffing expression or statement does not constitute fraud. So the representation must relate to a fact. Next is the other party must have been deceived. The rule is that a mere attempt to deceive is not fraud unless the other party is actually deceived. If a representation does not come to the notice of the party, it cannot be said to have misled the party. So when a statement is fraud or when an act is fraud, if the other party must have been deceived. Now the next and last element is the party acting on the representation must have suffered some loss. It is common rule of law that there is no fraud without damage. As such, fraud without damage or damage without fraud does not give rise to an action. So the party acting on the representation must have suffered some loss. So these are the essentials of fraud. I repeat, the important components or essentials of a fraud are The fraudulent act must have been committed by a party to the contract. There must be a representation or suggestion or assertion of a fact which must be false. There must be active or willful concealment of a fact, promise made without performing it. An act or representation, etc., must be done or made with an intention to deceive the other party. If an act or omission has specially been declared by law to be fraudulent, it amounts to fraud. The representation, etc., must relate to fact. The other party must have been deceived. The party acting on the representation must have suffered some loss. Now there is a question that mere silence is fraud. Mere silence without any legal duty to speak will not lead to fraud. I repeat, mere silence without any legal duty to speak will not lead to fraud. But in some situation, silence leads to fraud. The situations are where there is a duty to speak, where the silence is equal to speech, change of circumstances, duty to speak, where contracting party responds trust and confidence. So all these case silence leads to fraud. Now we can discuss the cases where mere silence is treated as fraud, or the exception to the rule that mere silence is not fraud. The cases are fiduciary relationship, contract of insurance, contract of marriage, contract of family settlement, share allotment contract. All these cases, mere silence is treated as fraud. Now we can discuss what are the effects of fraud. He can avoid the contract but within a reasonable time. It is the first effect, which means the injured party has the power to cancel the contract, but it must be done within a reasonable time. Now the next effect is he can file a suit for damages, which means the aggrieved party can make a complaint to the court for compensating the damages. This is the second effect. Now the third one is he may insist for the specific performance of the contract, which means he has the right to insist for the specific performance of the contract. So these are the main effects of fraud. Okay students, in this video we discussed the concept fraud, its definition, elements of fraud, silence as fraud, effect of fraud, etc. So hope you understand all these terms. Now we can discuss the questions related to this area. They are: define fraud, explain the essential elements of fraud, mere silence amounts to fraud, comment, what is the effect of fraud. So try to answer this question. So students, today's session is over. We can meet in our next class. Till then, bye. Take care.